Welcome to Web App Development video 27. This video we'll be looking at sessions. Okay, as part of the better integration elements, so far we've looked at Ajax, and in this and the next two videos we'll look at user tracking. So why do we want to track a user? Well, much of what we've talked about up to now has been, everything we've talked about up to now has been a single submit reply. Very basic conversation with the server. So if the user fills in an HTML form, that form is sent to the server's PHP processes it and sends an HTML form back to the client. End of conversation. Okay. If the user fills in another form and submits that, the server has got no history. It doesn't know the user's been here before. It doesn't know what other pages they've filled in. It doesn't know that they've logged in, for example. All that's user tracking, and sessions are an easy way to do user tracking within a session. What do we mean by a session? A session is a session of the browser. So it's when the browser is opened, that starts a new session. When the user closes their browser down, that finishes the session. Okay, so these aren't long-lived sessions. They're within a window being opened and closed. In this video, we'll look at MyFirstSession variable, a simple refresh counter that shows how many times a page has been loaded, just to start the idea of a conversation, something lasting longer than one load of a page. Well, next video, we'll look at login sessions, which is more realistic, and then in the last one, we'll add a cookie, which is a longer lived thing. That's something that lives for days or months or eternity. Okay, so over to NetBeans. PHP handles the sessions because it's on the server. So we're going to create a PHP file called sessions1. Okay, I'm just going to copy over our standard blank template. Oops. And what I want to do is in here, I want to do some PHP. And what I want to echo is, what I actually want to do something is refresh count and put a number in here that shows how many times the page has been refreshed. Okay. Fill that in a minute. How do we do that? Well, with PHP, you start a session. And you have to start the session right at the top of the document. Okay, so your PHP, that must be the first character of the document. Because when the web server is asked for a document, it actually replies with two chunks of data. It replies with some metadata about the document, and then it replies with the document. All your HTML, including this comment and the doc type statement, are part of the body. Not the body, the content of the document. Once it starts sending that, it may have to close the header, the metadata. Okay, so we have to set the session in the metadata before the body starts getting sent out or the content starts getting sent out. So you can't have anything before you do session start. And that's a PHP command that starts a session. Okay, and that's, I'll just take that out just now. I'll put that in quotes, that's good enough. If we run this in the browser, I'm going to try a side-by-side view now. And we're going to sessions1.php. The refresh count says XXX. Okay, we've got nothing dynamic working yet. But if we go to the developers tool, Control-Shift-I, or on the menu, more tools, developer tools, there's lots of tabs up here. So far we've looked at elements, which shows us the structure of the page. We looked at the network to see things loading. And if you go to, it's usually hidden on this unless you've got a very big window, applications, down here you can see various things about your application, including the cookies. And session variables are held as temporary cookies. So here we've got our session ID is set. Okay. Without this line, so if I take that line out, save it, I have to delete this, which you can the developer tools, refresh the page, go back here, it has no cookies. Turn that back on, save, refresh, click there again, we now have our session variable. That's a long random number. It's generated by the server, and that's actually all that's kept on the client to identify the session, and that value is sent back to the server whenever the page is reloaded, so that the server, whenever it does a session start, it says, oh, have I been sent this PHP session ID? If it has, then it reuses it, and it looks up the data, it looks up its own databases to find out any variables that are associated with that. If it's not set, it creates it. Okay? And once it's set, once it's looked up its database, we can access session variables much like we do with post and get. So we can get refresh count. I can spell. Yeah, refresh count. Okay, so we're just using, instead of $_post, we use $_session. Okay. We can set variables in that associative array and reuse them from that associative array, and they're tied to the session ID that was created and linked to with the session start. So all we have to do is do session start, and then we can use these variables. Much like post and get, it can be set or it can't. So if it's set, then we can do something else. We can do something else, and something else I want to do is set it to 1. So if it's set, I want to increment it. If it's not set, I want to set it to 1. Okay. And then down here, instead of the XXX, I can just echo that number. I should tidy up the page a wee bit as well. Oh, we've got an error. Great. Type 4 is set. Oh. Try typing properly, Dunlop. So we have sessions 1, refresh count is 1. That's what we'd expect. We set the variable to 1 there, and we've read it there, so we get 1. But if we refresh the page, it clicks up. And if you look at the cookies, we've still got our PHP session ID is set. So as we go up, this page empties every time. Don't worry about that. That counts up. Now, if we take that URL and we paste it into a new tab, that keeps going because the session ID is carried over. If I go to a different browser though, so if I go to Edge, it's back to 1 because it doesn't have the session variable. Okay, so there's no session associated with that browser. And if I close Chrome down and open it up again, it should be back to 1. Yeah, because there's no session variable. The session is lost once the window's closed. And that's basically it for various session variables. You can stick whatever you want in this. It's just an associative array. You pick your names, you give them values, save them in the session variable, and they're linked in automatically when a session is started. So that's our first session variable. The book's got a chapter on cookies, sessions, and authentication. And in the next video, we'll look at logging in, a more complex use of sessions.